Hey, this is Zach Log the Great, and I am back tonight with my friend Nate
Hello.
and Travis,
Good evening.
and we are getting together tonight to talk about John Donne's poem, "Woman's Constancy." Before we get to that, I did want to say if you like my videos, if you like my work, you want to support me, be a part of that, you can go to subscribestar.com/Zachlog-the-great and sign up to support there. And neither of these fine gentlemen tonight want to be too closely associated with the sometimes with the possibly unkind to women John Donne. So that that disreputable.
For my wife's amusement, I will read this so she gets to hear the poem.
Okay, well, I will put it up on the screen.
She's got her dessert and is waiting on this one. Oh, it's grits.
I will put it up on the screen, and Nate can read it for us as soon as it's there.
It is there.
Okay.
Woman's Constancy by John Donne. Now thou hast loved me one whole day. Tomorrow, when you leavest, what wilt thou say? Wilt thou then antedate some new-made vow? Or say that now we are not just those persons which we were? Or that oaths made in reverential fear of love and his wrath any may forswear? Or, as true deaths true marriages untie, so lovers' contracts, images of those, bind but till sleep, death image does them unloose? Or, for your own end to justify, for having purpose change and falsehood you can have no way but falsehood to be true? Vain lunatic, against these scapes I could dispute and conquer if I would, which I abstain to do, for by tomorrow I may think so too.
Okay. Thank you, Nate. And Travis, would you like to start us off? Your thoughts on this one?
Oh, I can try. It is an interesting poem, and I think the title is quite interesting since it's sort of pointing at inconstancy. Don't know that that's a real word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I guess if. All right, so I'm single. You guys always are chiming in these things, and you're married, and say, "Oh, you don't know because you're not married." Well, I've had to do a fair amount of torturous dating for a while, so it kind of ties into the dating world because you feel this way fairly often. And it's not just a one-sided thing. Women feel this way in dating as well. But I think the first line is priceless. Now thou hast loved me one whole day. And obviously well, maybe it is. Maybe this lover really was for a day and he was that in love and got heartbroken. Well, that's the way a date works, It's a whole hour and a half, 2 hours, and then you break up afterwards.
God, I'm so glad I'm not dating anymore.
Yeah, it's a joyous time, let me tell you. And even now that I'm looking at it, like, comparing it to a date is perhaps a great thing to do, because tomorrow when you leavest, what will thou say? Because that is what you're saying at the end of a date. So did she like me? Like, I thought she was pretty cool. Will she answer my text? Will thou then antedate some new made vow? Which is, if they respond to your text, which the vast majority of the time they don't even bother with an excuse. They'll give you an excuse why they can't get together, and then they do that like 2 or 3 times, and then it's very clear that they don't actually want to hang out with you. They're just being polite and don't have the balls, so to speak, to just say, hey, thanks for the date, had a nice time, see you around town. Or say that now we are not just those persons which we were. So even though on a date, you're laughing, she's laughing, you feel like you're having a good time, you feel like, oh, this went well enough that it should warrant a second date. Apparently, we weren't the same person we were on the date whenever we failed to respond to a text and just totally ghost. So I think that's enough of a paradigm right now. I'll let somebody else speak, but that's a good start.
Well, it's also kind of funny because, like, okay, so the title is Women's Constancy, and and he's saying, like, basically, women are faithless, and they'll make this promise, and then they'll pretend there was this other promise before that oh, I really couldn't have done that. I really shouldn't have said that. So that doesn't actually count. And it's like, like I said, women are faithless. It's like, you loved me one whole day. Now you're going to disappear and make up some nonsense to excuse it. But then it's, and it's, I guess you could call it self-awareness, because, there's the old saying, when you point the finger at someone else, you have 3 fingers pointing back at you.
That's why they invented the knife hand. See that? We have no such weaknesses.
Wait, say that again, Nate?
That's why the military invented the knife hand. I'm pointing at you, and there's nothing coming back my way. This is you.
That's great. I like that.
But and he ends it. And I could argue with you. I could show why all of this is not true. I could show why you should be faithful to me. But I'm not going to, because tomorrow I might feel the same thing. And so the title, and it starts off Women's Constancy, and yet he's admitting, at least at the time of this, he's really no better. He's not he's not more devoted. He's not more faithful to his word. It's I don't love this movie as much as some people seem to, but it seems appropriate right now. Bruce Campbell, Army of Darkness. That was just pillow talk, baby. So I don't know if you guys have seen that one.
I did see it, but I don't remember the complete context in the movie. But yes, the line fits.
Anyway.
So, how about you?
Let me go back. I think that's why it's a very interesting poem, because he's saying woman's constancy, then he's talking about more frivolous nature of this particular woman that he's talking about, and then he is at the end coming around and saying, "Well, I'm probably not any better." Even though he's focusing in on woman in the title. I mean, he's not being complete misogynist. He's a man exploring that relationship that a man and a woman have, and in love and dating, so much of it is perception, and a lot of miscommunication, even on dates, even just in dating. I mean, I recognize. So if you take what someone says, and it's the one person's like, oh, this is pillow talk, this is enjoyable for the moment, but this isn't serious, and the other person's like deeply in love and like thinks this means they're going to be together forever, you're really coming at it from 2 completely different perspectives. You're not having the same conversation.
Yeah, and I think without that ending, without like that last 3 lines, I think this poem would be I think I would like this poem a lot less. because if it is just women's constancy and it's like, oh, women are faithless and look at how all the ways they try and get out of their word, and he's like, yeah, I kind of do the same thing too. It's I think that makes it. I think that makes it a lot more interesting, and I think it makes it a lot more, valuable as a look into human nature. So Nate, how about you? We haven't heard your ideas about this yet.
It strikes me this is doing women an injustice because the person being described here is not mature enough to claim the title of woman. Like they may be they may be a sexually mature adult human female, but that doesn't make them a woman. That just makes them a large girl.
And but what is a woman?
Well, Matt, from a biological perspective, yes, they would be a woman. From a grown-ass perspective, they would not be.
See, that's exactly what I keep saying.
It's a conversation I had with my wife. Once we've been married a few years, I was like, she was like, because she had this one friend that was always like, "Hey, girls, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, why do you want to be girls? I don't get it. Girls are immature and silly. Like, to this day, I'm not a huge fan of girls. I was always after a woman because a woman is wise and strong. She's tempered. She's temperate. She's not doing all of this nonsense where it's like on again, off again, wishy-washy bull crap. It's, hey, this is how I feel. This is how I intend to proceed. Are we on the same page? And you can set up a relationship with a woman because she's not this. It's not, oh, well, I loved you then. I really liked you while we were out, but now that I'm thinking about it. So yeah, that's the whole problem though, is that, females these days want to be girls, not women. Like, look, you may go shopping around for a princess, but a king wants a queen. And there's a whole qualitative difference there. And so, yeah, no, this would be better titled, I think, Girls Constancy, because there's nothing more inconstant than a girl.
Well, okay. So related to what Donne is describing here, I will say, even if you kind of go with his depiction of this whole thing, I think there is some defense of this kind of thing on the part of women. And the on again, off again, is she really interested in me, kind of thing, because women, like, before, especially especially in the absence of contraception, committing for women is a much bigger deal if it goes wrong than committing for men. And so, like, although I'm not exactly sure what "love me one whole day" means, so anyway, but committing for women is a much bigger deal than committing for men. And so, like, testing, is he actually interested? Like, pushing him off and seeing if he's going to continue the chase.
No.
No.
No? I'm sorry. I do not believe in it. I think it's ridiculous.
You do not believe in what?
The whole playing hard to get bull crap. No. A woman should honestly say, look, if you're interested in me, you're going to meet these challenges. And I'm willing to give you a chance to do that. But you shouldn't be like, oh, never mind. Or just be like, no, I don't want to see you. And then expect him to override you. That sets up healthy boundaries. No means maybe.
I'm with you.
No means maybe. Oh, hold on. Right up until it means no, and then you're like, oh wait, what happened? Why is this all of a sudden a problem? Usually you want me to just ride over your objections. Now all of a sudden it's a big deal? Okay. No, a woman should say, okay, this is what I expect out of a man. Can you be that man? And then the man says, you're hot. Let's make a go of it. Or he said, yeah, you know what? I don't think it's worth it. That's how that should go. That is the way it is meant to go. That is an honest way of pursuing things. But all this childish. You, woman.
Although, I mean, I will say,
you want.
like I agree with you, and I'm looking for that grown ass woman that, you know, knows herself and what she's looking for and what she wants and can have conversations and work through, just like you're talking about. From having dated, I also recognize on my end how much I'm missing just because I'm stuck in my perspective when it comes to dating women and inconstancy. And a large part of that is because through attachment, like that relationship is very important to us. We need to mate, procreate, the whole biological paradigm, whatever. Because it is so important, there are a lot of strong emotions and therefore a lot of defenses that we may have against those strong emotions in the process of trying to get to know this person. So it's, while I'm looking for a woman who knows who she is and what she's looking for, I'm also well aware of the fact that when you add that woman into that picture, I may think I know who I am and what I want in a woman, but until I start interacting with that woman, I don't actually know who I am in the context of that specific relationship. Does that make any sense?
Oh, I see it. And it's a problem. It's a problem of youth. What I will tell you immediately is that meeting my wife changed me. And getting to know my wife changed me, and being married to her has changed me. And
she took you from being a prince to a king. That's what she did.
Yeah, she really did. And we have developed together. So, I mean, yeah, if I had to, for some reason, just, you know, some malevolent genie went perf and, you know, just separated us or deleted for somehow my wife, and I had to go back and like meet who she was back then, I probably wouldn't want to marry her because I've gotten used to who she became.
And yeah, that is
but like, and honestly, there's a lot of, you know, I think it was it was a legendary aerospace designer. Can't remember the name, but I remember the quote. It says, every design has a certain number of explosions in it. And so the main part of your designing and your prototyping phase is to find the explosions. And so every dating and, you know, every development cycle, every, you know, growth phase for a person has a certain amount of heartbreak in it. And unfortunately, we usually find a woman to supply us that heartbreak, or a girl. And so I spent 6 years getting played by this person, the person herein described. Except for I'm not even really sure she ever had loved me one whole day. But anyway, I think I was a diversion. But anyway, yeah. And so that taught me very clearly, well, that sucks. Don't do that anymore. Find the polar opposite of that person. And then I did. And I married that girl. So I guess that's one thing about dating is also, you know, you figure out what hurts. And then you figure out what actually makes you smile. And if you can find enough smile without a whole lot of hurt, that's probably where you need to be. And after that, you just figure out, okay, what do I have to do to secure this? How exactly do I go about putting a ring on it?
Well, figuring out how to secure it. I mean, I love your quote. I've never heard that before. It's brilliant. Like that's really what you like. There is joy in designing something and a lot of excitement, but there are all of those explosions that have to occur so that you can go back and rework it and build it till you've got something that works. And I mean, to me, that's what a relationship is. It is the excitement and the joy, but you have to accept and be looking for those little explosions and how to solve them the whole way through.
Yeah, and that's it. That's one of the things. It was one of the reasons I knew that me and her had a future together. Is that we broke up like 3 times, four times. I know I dumped her at least twice for the one that kept hurting me for all those years. And then I think she broke up with me once. But each time we came back, we realized that, well, that was dumb. And we got back together and we were like, we're stronger after this. We know that is dealt with. And so I was like, man, okay, if we can, come into a problem, realize it's serious, and fix ourselves, like fix either our individual selves or us as a unit, then no, we're onto something here. I think we can really give it a good go together, and going pretty well so far.
So I have to point out here, Nate, since you dumped her twice and she only dumped you once before you got together and stayed together, that means that you were actually the more inconstant person in the early relationship.
Yeah, I don't know. I was spooky about it, man. Like the first time I tried to break up with her, it was because I was like, "Oh, this feels weird. I don't understand what's going on with me. I'm uncomfortable here." And I realized I had been so unhappy, like it was so crappy before, that the feeling I was feeling was active happiness, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And she was like, that breakup lasted literally 15 minutes, and she was like, "Hey, dumbass, you got that thing you're feeling? That's happiness. You're happy. You're breaking up with me because I make you happy?" And I'm like, "You're right. I am. That's retarded. Hey, can we just like undo that?" And she was like, "Yes." I was like, "Oh, good. Thank you. Sorry about that. I'll try to be less of an idiot in the future." I've mostly failed.
So what was so one other interesting thing about this poem, like this whole thing is, him talking. We don't see her point of view at all. And it's also kind of funny because it's just like, well, maybe you're going to say this, and maybe you're going to say this, and maybe you're going to say this. And it's entirely possible she's like, if you imagine this like as an actual conversation, it's entirely possible she's just sitting there staring at him. I'm like, what are you talking about? I wasn't gonna break up with you before, but maybe now I should.
Kind of got that very sad look on her face, like, who hurt you?
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like,
Johnny, what happened to you, man?
he's somewhere he got a very sour view of how this is gonna work, and it's like, where did that come from? Is I think a legitimate question.
Or possibly he has known this woman before. This comment goes out to my friend Bushido. I hope you watch this video when we're done. Look, homeboy, Satan's Mistress is fun for about 30 minutes, and then it hurts for days. You know this. Stop doing that. You get lonely? Okay, I understand. Please stop doing it. She's all this.
And none of that, right?
We've all been there. But she's all this, and that ain't all that. To go back to the 90s. Yeah.
It's also kind of interesting, like going through, like looking at the excuses he comes up with. Okay, so the first one is, "Well, thou then antedate some new made vow." Are you going to like invent some promise and say that was before, and so that like, well, I can't really be involved with you because I made this promise before, although you had just invented it? Or are you going to say now we are not just those persons which we were? Like, oh yes, we were so in love, yesterday, but time flows on, and we're really not the same people at all. And the person who made you that promise, the person who felt so in love with you, I'm really not that person anymore. 24 hours later, as true deaths, true marriages untie, so lovers' contracts, images of those bind but till sleep, death's image. It's like, okay, so when one person dies, that marriage is done, and the other person is, free to go. And so we're not married. We're, I didn't make a marriage vow. I just, said some things because, we had all those, these big feelings going on. And it's just kind of a picture of marriage. And going to sleep is kind of a picture, kind of a mini preview of dying. And so going to sleep does the same thing to my promises as dying does to a marriage.
That line made me laugh so hard. I was like, dang, John. All right. Get mad.
Or your own end to justify of having purpose, change, and falsehood. You can have no way but falsehood to be true. I intended from the start to be false. That was the plan. That was that was my honest intention, and therefore, to be honest, I have to betray you.
Well, that's the pickup artist line right there.
Oh, should have called Roosh V and see if I could get him on for this one. Maybe, you know what? I might ask. You never know. You never know until you ask. Do you guys know who that is?
Nope.
No.
A guy who was very big in the pickup artist world, and kind of very explained like to guys like, okay, here's how you do this, and basically kind of taught the techniques.
A disgusting cretin. All right, I got you.
And then basically a few years ago, he is like, wow, this life I've been really leading is really empty. Like, it feels good for a little bit, but this is horrible. And he is now a very serious Christian. So
That's the hope for in a situation like that. Actually, well, it is the best you can hope for. Second best is the headline I read the other day, which is a guy came back from Africa with came back with monkeypox, COVID, and HIV.
All three.
All three. I'm like, you have hit hell's trifecta, friend. Well done. Maybe you should stay in Africa.
The Triple Crown. No, not talking about any of that tonight. I'm gonna leave that one. Let that as it lies. Yeah, and just like going,
but no falsehoods to be true.
And it's also kind of funny to me because there's this very like light. It's not quite lighthearted. This very disconnected and cynical, but trying to put a happy face on it tone to this whole thing. But it's also like, which I've seen do, for by tomorrow I may think so too. And like, you take the whole thing together and it's like, I don't think he's happy with this. I think, if I'm reading this accurately, I think John Donne actually probably was, pretty good at, at getting the girls, back in the day. And I think at a certain point he's like, this is not this is not really what I need here. This is not actually delivering what it promised. And I think this is kind of part of that, because it doesn't, I don't know. Maybe I'm, projecting my own worldview onto this, but it doesn't seem like he's actually happy with this situation. Although he tries to put this like, oh yeah, whatever, go do your thing. I might have made the same decision.
No, I think he's not happy with the situation, but he is recognizing that he might see it the same way as her later.
I feel like it's oh my God, that's so childish. But I'm not so grown myself.
Right?
Kind of
Yeah,
a
I
day.
think that's what it feels like.
I mean, what this is, right, is that, and I was actually having this conversation with my wife not long ago. Bigger, but it's the whole idea that men want women more than women want men. Because for a man to survive, like just to live and live well, like live and like have all that he needs and a surplus, he has no need of a woman. A woman is in fact a detriment to that process from a purely utilitarian standpoint. But a man wants a woman because in a woman he finds somebody who, as he goes out and overcomes challenges and does things, she makes the challenges worthwhile in a way that cannot be attained by simple, survival and occasional physical gratification. It's so much more than that. Whereas what a woman wants, less than said, there are actually things that men and women want more than love. It's just that love is the signal that we have obtained them. More than love, a man wants to be respected. And more than loved, a woman wants to be secure. I want to know that my mate thinks I am a formidable and capable individual. I want to know that when she looks at me, she's like, strength, ability, yes. And so whenever she shows her love to me, it is in homage to that, yeah, you know what? You're the kind of mate that is going to provide for me and protect me. And I appreciate it. And so I love you. And what she wants is someone who's going to go, hey, I am not going to just go run off and abandon you, with our offspring once I've decided that I'm done with that. That's not a decision I am making. I'm going to stick around and I'm going to, try to do for you everything I can to make sure you have what you need. And so when I do that for her, she looks at it and says, love. He's going to stay. And so what we run into here is that, he's got this yearning and all he's getting out of it is, these brush passes. He's like, maybe I can finally find what I'm looking for. Nope. Maybe I can find one this time. Nope. Is this my card? Crap. No. Is this my card? Crap. No. Is my card in this deck? No. Where'd the aces go? Damn it.
Pretty sure there are none in my deck.
And you find it in your sleeve and you're like, oh, right. I was trying to cheat.
Well, it's and another thing, along the same lines is like, even if you just look at a purely material perspective, like if you look at your house, okay, and you just walk into a room and look around, women will do things around a house that a guy would never think to do, but like once it's there, we're kind of like, yeah, that's nice. I like that. That's cool. But like, It would never occur to us to do that ourselves. But we're glad someone did it.
This refers back to what Nate was saying about how a guy can, technically really doesn't need a woman to survive and do whatever and have the basics. But When you're single long enough and you're doing all of your own laundry and all of your own dishes, a woman who wants to do some of that starts to sound pretty beneficial to survival.
Well, see, no, but the problem with that then is if you're together for a while, there are kids, and then kids generate a lot more laundry and a lot more dishes, and they're
Yeah.
not doing any of that for a good while.
Good point. I'll just stay single.
That was not the advice. I was just.
That's the other thing, is that there are also, I mean, you have the concrete benefits of, hey, I get married, there's a sexual partner right there all the time, and she may not always want to be available, but it's going to be a heck of a lot easier than having to. It's the agricultural switch, right? I am not having to go and hunt down sex. I can just stroll over the silo and grab me some. It's right there. I've already secured it. It's great. I have someone to help me with chores. It's awesome. She makes my house nice. Fantastic. I never thought I'd hang something like that there, but now that it's there, I'd be sad if it was gone. Learned something about myself. But there's more to it than that. And it's a whole lot more, and it's something you absolutely can't see until, you're years into it looking back going, holy crap. Remember how I said earlier that, it's that my wife, I found my queen, she made me a king, right? I did not go into this expecting to become anything. I figured I was pretty cool. But my wife says all these great things about me. She says that, hey, I see these qualities in the kids and they remind me of you. And so it makes me happy. And I'm like, I don't necessarily see those qualities in myself, but I want to. So, hey, if apparently I'm already manifesting some of that, I'm going to work on it. I want to deepen that channel, increase that flow of good thing in myself. And so, she helps me. We feed off each other. We help each other become stronger and better because we point out the things that, hey, I love that about you. And then, whichever one is being addressed is usually like, what? I didn't think I was like that good thing. I've always been, a little bit down on that about myself. And so, said a good marriage, you speak good things to each other and you develop each other. Or it's those people are idiots. They shouldn't treat you like that. You should value yourself more. And I'm like, it's like, yeah, you know what? Thank you. Thank you for helping me to value myself better and to not let people take advantage of me. Thank you for helping me set proper boundaries. We learn so much just in the day-to-day of, overcoming life together that, yeah, we deepen and strengthen and sharpen each other and soften each other in some ways without ever really understanding that we're doing it until we come out the other side and we're like, well, this is much better. But I am infinitely grateful to that woman of mine. I'm not just saying that because she's sitting 8 feet that way. I'm saying that, and I tell her that all the time.
So, moving back in the direction of inconstancy.
Yeah, that was a strong divergence.
When you were talking earlier, the Mars-Venus guy's theory of the highest order of need, you said about men being respect and women being security. And I've read that and thought about it some, and I feel like he's right. Like, I think it fits. Maybe it's not 100%, but it fits. And you said about, from that, it's like the woman in some ways needs the man because of that looking for security. And I think the biggest thing I find in my dating is that a woman, if their highest need is security, the problem is that I can't give them that security. Now, I can be a man, I can be a person in the relationship working to support them, help them be their best person. But feels like the difference, what you're calling a difference between a girl and a woman, is the woman's figured out some level of their own security versus not really knowing who they are and how to come to the equation with their own security. And this is, I'm just theorizing. I'm not saying this is the way it actually works. I'm kind of talking out my.
I'm just listening. But I have a statement, but I want you to finish first.
And really, we all come to relationships with those insecurities. I mean, and that's just the truth. Whatever the difference between man and woman and what those specifically look like because of that. I don't know. It's interesting. And I have a friend who tells me about this. You guys have probably read about it, heard about it, the hypergamy theories, which fits on that line of, I don't know. But it's interesting. 70% of divorces are asked for by women. Is it 80?
It's 80 now.
Okay.
I was going to bring that up later.
And and I think there is a reason for that. You know, and my friend's telling me that evolutionarily they're looking for the bad boy who's going to take what they want whenever they're in their teens and 20s, and then they get into their 30s, and it's like, oh, now I'd really actually kind of like that emotional security. So then they rape the man's resources on the way out and look for the guy who's actually a little mellower. I don't know. It's a fascinating theory, but and you can easily turn that into a damning of women, as this poem could easily be seen as. But it's a trying to sort out what is happening and where are we looking for our security. And that's a question for men and women, because I mean, I really do believe that men are just as frivolous in so many ways. It's just a little bit different. I mean, it's even the word of constancy, like, you know, the traditional man is just looking for sex. Well, that's a pretty inconstant manner of being. He's not looking for something serious. So it's there on both sides. I guess it's
and
complicated when you dig in.
And you know, that's even there in the poem, you know, like I said earlier, which I think is one reason I find it amusing and interesting and not just kind of unpleasant. Because, you know, he's got the three. He is not doing the what was that?
Yeah, he's not knife handing. He's definitely just pointing.
And so
point.
But what was so on a somewhat related note, and I just realized I should have gotten this. I should have seen if I could get her for this conversation. There's a comic strip. You guys, I'm gonna recommend it. It's on archaven.com. You can read it online. It's called Hypergamouse. And it's, you know, adventures in dating and romance. As you know, as played out by several cartoon mice. Nate, I see the look on your face. I promise it is I promise you should take a look at just a couple of them, because I think it's a lot better than you might be thinking. For one thing, it's very, very not feminist.
That's a good start.
Yes, like one of the characters is like, oh, you know, I'm a strong, independent woman, and like it, you know, basically shows her like, you know, sitting alone at home in her apartment, you know, watching TV with a glass of wine and, like, you know, pretty much crying herself to sleep because she's gotten to the point where it's like, huh, there's not that many men interested in me anymore. That
actually kind of steers pretty well into what I was getting ready to say when Travis was talking, which is that where the girl starts to take a turn toward becoming a woman is when she realizes that she has to be more than pretty. She has to be more than, you know, the crystal, you know, like the crystal lens. You know, she has to have strength on her own and she has to be able to give support. Like, men aren't looking, well, good men aren't looking for, a kitten, some tiny little thing that we have to do everything for and can be just ours, and we have to hold away from the world. Because we're looking for someone to share and to support. Okay, I want to give, we want to give the security, but we want to be securing something valuable. Okay, like I said, you don't, for lack of a better term, you don't want to build, your castle out of windows. You want to be guarding something. You want to be working towards something that is durable and lasting. You want to, you guard a resource, not a. God, I'm trying to think of a good way. Like it's in my head, and the words are just like, we refuse to go near this. Is it? You guard a resource, not a sinkhole, right?
Unless the sinkhole is a resource.
I'm sorry. There's nothing that a sinkhole gives. All it does is get greedier and greedier until it swallows your castle. You don't try and defend something like that. You defend a spring, or you defend a treasure. You defend something that is valuable. But that's, like I said, that's when a woman really starts to develop out of the heart of a girl, and she realizes that just being being pretty or being young or being, some superficial thing doesn't matter. What a man wants is somebody who's going to help him. And now, what do I need to be to do that?
Well, and I think another part of that is, the realization, which is more or less deliberately hidden from young women these days, as far as I can tell, that at some point, these, good looks, which make everything so easy for me, which make like half of the population like throw themselves out of the way to do whatever they can for me. At some point, those are going to go away. And I need to have something else sorted out before then. And if as a parent or someone else in a young woman's life who can help her understand this, you can get her there. That is a big point in helping her get that kind of maturity. But also, like I said, the way our society is built these days, it is more or less deliberately hiding that fact from young women as long as possible.
Well, there's also the lie we tell them that they're perfect.
I actually saw
absolutely not. It's honestly, it's one of my favorite things that has ever come out of any Hollywood thing ever was the whole, I call it the Pratt sermon. Is Chris Pratt getting that award, and he goes up there and he lays out this actually really great set of precepts for all these people that probably never hear this stuff in their daily life. There is a God. He cares. He knows who you are. Your heart is very important and easy to corrupt. You're not perfect, and that's a good thing. Learn to deal with it. Get grace. I was just like, this is all fantastic. Well done, sir.
You say this was Chris Pratt?
Yeah, Chris Pratt.
I will have to. I'll have to try and look that up. I haven't.
Do you know what the award was? Yeah, I'll look that up too.
An Oscar?
Probably either that or a Golden Globe. Probably an Oscar.
At acceptance speech. I'm at the computer.
So while you're looking at that, I can
What,
bring us
it's
back
an
to the.
MTV award? Oh, MTV Movie Awards.
Okay.
So that's exceptionally out of joint with what the event would be like. But no, he laid it down, and I was like, wow, I actually respect this doofus.
On a similar note, I haven't looked into this myself too much yet, and I perhaps I am a bit cynical these days, but I hold my suspicions for the moment. But I have heard that Shia LaBeouf has become a Christian and has had at least, I forget who it was with, had a very interesting interview basically describing his conversion, his journey and his conversion. So which if
they said he converted to Christianity after playing in the movie Fury, because his character was supposed to be like, read the Bible a lot, so he did that to kind of get in the mindset of the character, and was like, this is fantastic.
Well, the director of that, I can't think of his name, I just remember reading an interview somewhere that Shia LaBeouf, I always thought it was Shia, but maybe it's Shia, that he said that the director was like super Christian, and I just remember reading that, but I didn't know that but like that was an element in that movie of what they had to kind of learn, I guess.
So Travis, where were you about to
I thought I could bring us back to the movie. Back to the poem.
We've seen a number of these movies. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Woman's Constancy movie.
Yes. So, where he personifies love, or that oaths made in reverential fear of love and his wrath. So in fear of love and his wrath. And I think it's an interesting question of what does wrath's love look like?
Well, I mean, if you want to, you can, go back to the Bible, because, it says, love is in, Song of Songs, it says, love is as strong as the grave. Do I have that right? I feel like that's it. And it's just like, yeah, it's things go wrong, there's definitely wrath there. And it's not even necessarily the other person. Like, it's just like, you get attached to someone, they, and for some reason, they leave, or something, breaks, something, separates you. And even if the other person is as kind as possible about this, you're still just kind of getting shredded. So yes, love has wrath. Yeah. That is there.
Song of Solomon 8:6. Set me as a seal over your heart, as a seal upon your arm. For love is as strong as death. Its jealousy as unrelenting as hell. Its sparks are fiery flames, the fiercest blaze of all. Mighty waters cannot quench love. Rivers cannot sweep it away. If a man were to give all the wealth of his house for love, his offer would be utterly scorned. That's 6 and 7.
I should probably reread that section sometime before long. It's been a while. But
I remember I was basic, and a guy they had Bibles around all this. So I'm kind of sitting up against my Foot Locker, reading Isaiah, I think. Well, this other guy comes down, Washington. He comes down. He's like, "Hey, Eleanor." I was like, "Yeah, what is?" He's like, "Yeah, you know the Bible, right?" I was like, "Fairly well, yes." He's like, "I started reading." I was like, "Great, this is fantastic. What are you reading?" Song of Solomon. Why? I was like, "Okay, fine." He's like, "Look, it says here, it's like, like it's like you are fine like a tree planted, blah, blah, blah. It's like your breasts are like pomegranates. I long to climb your tree and eat of your fruits." Is that does that mean what I think it means? I was like, that means exactly what you think it means. He's like, that's the Bible, though. I'm like, God made sex. It's awesome. Why do you think I'm so frustrated up here? I ain't been seeing my wife in 6 weeks. But yeah, Song of Solomon is pretty epic. That's what I'm thinking. It's like, gotta let the boys wait until they're a little older to even know that book exists.
Okay.
It also says not to arouse love before it's time.
It repeats that. It repeats that many times, actually, if I recall.
Yeah, because you end up like old Donnie boy here, all upset and flustered.
Okay. Well, I think I've covered most of the things I wanted to say about this poem. Travis, how about you? Last thoughts?
I can't think of anything too much to add. Just that, yeah, inconstancy exists on both sides.
And Nate, how about you tonight?
Love is not a feeling. Love is a choice. You can feel infatuated very strongly with a person, and they may or may not return that. But that is not love. Love at first sight does not exist. Titanic attraction at first sight exists. That's why I have a whole movie called Titanic about it. Okay, but
shortly before her death, an aged grandmother reminisces about that time in her early 20s when she banged a hobo.
Also heaves a priceless treasure overboard, which is the point of the reason for being on the ship. What? She's a bad person. Didn't like her. Anyway, that's not love. Love is not a thing you find while dating. Love is a thing you build after you figure out compatibility issues. Okay? If you find a person that you're like, you know what? I admire your traits. And I have enough of a sexual attraction to you that we can make this happen. Then you go, okay, I'm going to commit to this, and then you build love day by day from there. So love doesn't come in love doesn't come in a nice IKEA kit. All right. It says love is grown at home, and it is something each different love is an artisanal project that you both work together until you become master craftsmen. And that is when you really have the love. Otherwise, you may have a decent working partnership. You may have an unquenchably fiery sexual desire for one another. But if you don't put in the work and you don't hash out the details and you don't smooth the sharp edges, you don't round the corners, you don't, grave the lines with precision, you haven't really built a love. But you can always start. Like I said, this is a sculpture of many strikes. But if you just keep chipping away, eventually it'll be something beautiful.
Okay. So, thank you both for joining me tonight. To those watching, I hope you enjoyed our conversation, and good night to all.
Good night.
Good night.